Brandon Aiyuk. He's not at the 49ers minicamp training with the team. He's training on his own, and his message, 5th day of OTAs. So he's doing his own minicamp here. There's buzz around the future of Aiyuk. Kyle Shanahan talked about the chemistry building between Brock Purdy and the guy they just drafted in the first round, Ricky Pearsall.
It's been fun to watch both of them. I mean, I know, Brock doesn't always get to watch how the route gets there, but he knows when guys end up in the right spot and they catch it. That's where quarterbacks get comfortable, and I think you can feel that with Ricky right away. I mean, he's been getting to the right spot, and when he has made mistakes, he understands it and corrects it, and I think that's why those guys are going to have a lot of fun working together.
This system is a quarterback's dream. So much fun. Look at the pass catchers here. Proven commodities with Aiyuk, Deebo, George Kittle, add a connection with Pearsall in the slot. Life could be pretty darn good for Brock Purdy. And we haven't even mentioned the newly extended Christian McCaffrey. We will get to that in a moment. But back here with the fellas, Lewis, when you look at the group here, how does Pearsall fit, and what does it mean now for the future of Aiyuk and Deebo as 49ers?
Yeah, look, I think Ricky Pearsall is a 3-position player. Really, he's a 4-position player. He can play both outside spots. He can play the slot. He can line up in the backfield and run routes from there. Who does that? Who's the guy who's a utility guy like that for San Francisco? That's Deebo's role. So quite honestly, look, you have to figure that John Lynch was thinking ahead. Kyle Shanahan was thinking ahead. We have to have a guy who can fill those multiple positions. They drafted another guy in the 4th round, in Jacob Cowing, who no one's talking about right now. But Arizona, this guy is just lightning in a bottle. He's another guy who can work the interior of the field between the numbers with blazing speed, great separation, great hands, run after the catch. To me, it sounds like they're preparing for, look, if they're preparing for the eventual exodus of one of these guys, to me, it sounds like they're preparing for the eventual exodus of Deebo Samuel. Because Brandon is more of an outside lane guy who can win down the field one-on-one. That's my read on it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you look at the odd man out in San Francisco based on where they are, it's got to be Deebo Samuel. And there's nothing against Deebo because Deebo has been electric. But a lot of what Deebo has done has been schemed through and schemed up by Kyle Shanahan. And I get it. He's a tremendous athlete. But think about all the toss sweeps with him playing tailback, the wide receiver screens, the little jet sweeps, getting him the football. Lewis, you talked about in the first segment with the Cowboys. This is a receiver league trying to get big plays going down the field. Well, if that's the case, you need a receiver that can get down the field and get vertical. No longer are we trying to throw these little jet sweeps. We're trying to throw the football 15, 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. And quite frankly, that's not Deebo's strong suit. Ricky Pearsall is a guy, you go back to the University of Florida, we all know him for the acrobatic catches, and he made a ton of them, but he can run all the routes. He is acceleration in the bottle. He will be able to open this offense up even more. And with the signing now of Christian McCaffrey to an extension, you can see where this offense is going to go. It's going to be pick your poison, okay? Either you're going to stop the run and stop McCaffrey, or we're now going to be able to line up. If you play a single high safety, assuming Aiyuk is there, Aiyuk and Pearsall will be able to route run you to death and get open. And now all Brock Purdy got to do is play action pass and throw the football down in one-on-one coverage. So I love what they're doing. They're creating chunk plays by bringing in a guy like Ricky Pearsall, and they're making the game a lot easier. Oftentimes, the 49ers, it was too difficult for them to score with Deebo because it was like we got to plod and plod and plod down the field. Now, I can see this offense becoming way more explosive, guys, and that's a scary sight for the NFL.
Yeah, Pearsall.
Okay, so this is really interesting and did not take a direction that I thought it was going to go in at all, because before the season, there was, not before the season, at the end of last season, there was kind of rumors that Aiyuk might be out. He was already apparently asking to be traded, or he just wanted to be gone. He wants his money clearly, which I understand, right? Everyone wants to get paid, and I get that. And all last season, it was really seen that Deebo is actually just the true workhorse. It was discussed a lot, especially by Colin Cowherd, talking about how, Vegas gives Deebo, when he's on the field, when he's playing, like plus 6 points, 7 points. That's like the most amount of points for any non-quarterback player. That's how Vegas rates when Deebo is playing versus not. And it was just kind of seen as like, when you have Deebo, you are going, for the 49ers, you're going to be a significantly better team. And now they're pretty much saying, hey, we know Aiyuk is unhappy. we're going to pay him, keep him, and try to move on from Deebo. It's interesting because, again, I've heard both sides. I've also heard where other people were arguing, no, like keep Deebo. Deebo is Deebo, but move on from Aiyuk. It's such a fascinating thing because one of the big issues with Deebo is that he does get banged up, and you don't know what you're necessarily going to get with him. But for the most part, he's been a good soldier. And now you have Aiyuk, who's skipping OTA, mini camps, and stuff like that, and it's tough. I don't know what it's like to obviously play with them or coach them or know really at the end of the day who you want to keep from a least personality and locker room perspective. But when they're talking about on the field, you can see the argument of as to why you move on from Deebo and you pretty much get a younger, healthier, cheaper replacement that can do a lot of those same things. And right, the question is like, how much is Deebo, and how much is you just need a player like Deebo, and then Shanahan will be able to do the rest. We'll be able to scheme the rest and do it. Is it really that Deebo is so unique that he is one of one, when in reality it just may be like, nope, we just need a guy like Deebo, and with the Shanahan offense, boom, we got it. It's an interesting question, and I think what we're seeing here is, and I'm going to be talking about this in a later video, is we are at peak of wide receivers. These receivers are getting paid so much money. We know that in such an offensively driven league, it's like you gotta pay the quarterback, and the wide receivers and some of these other positions are now being devalued. And it's such a fascinating thing because that's happening, you're also just getting better wide receivers out of the draft and getting more successful wide receivers more quickly out of the draft. And when that happens, when you can go draft potentially 31st overall wide receiver that ends up being elite and great, then it becomes less likely that you're going to pay a wide receiver all this amount of money. That's what's happened. That's what happened with running backs, is that they're like, well, we don't really need to pay a running back a ton of money because we can go draft a running back and he's going to be really darn good. He might not be able to give you 100% of what some of these stars can, but 90% is good enough, and that's actually all we need. Statistically, that's what the analytics show. We don't really need 100% of what you can bring. As long as we just get 90%, that we get it. That we maximize what you can do from the running back position. And I just wonder if we're going to see a similar trend. Are we in a wide receiver bubble where they're not likely to now pay these receivers all this money, or if any receiver causes trouble or whatever it may be, they're just more comfortable moving on and drafting another one? It's going to be a fascinating thing to see how the NFL shapes up with that, because I do think we're just going to continue to see better and better and better receivers coming out of the draft. And when that happens, again, you'll be able to do some of these moves. You won't be forced to pay someone so much money or forced to have to choose between Aiyuk or Deebo or Christian McCaffrey. You can be like, well, we could just kind of move on from one of them, and we got his replacement, and he's going to be really good. He might not be exactly like this guy, but it's going to be good enough. And to me, that's going to be a really fascinating thing to see, because players are only getting better, and they're only getting better more quickly. Just like we've seen that with quarterbacks. Like once upon a time, quarterbacks took a little bit more time to develop, and nowadays it's really not like that. It's like, we know who you are within the first couple of years, like, let's go. And so we're just seeing that with kind of all the positions these days, and it's really fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. And it's also kind of scary when you can look at someone like a Deebo and say that Deebo is the odd man out. Like, that's crazy when you think about it. Any team would kill to have a Deebo. And now he's potentially the odd man out, and you're going to be able to just draft a rookie, and it doesn't even have to be like, it could be the 31st overall pick. It doesn't even have to be like the top 5 pick, right? You could just kind of go deeper in their draft and go get him and be like, yeah. So it's really fascinating. And I'm really curious to see how this all unfolds, and if they make any splash moves to try to move on from someone, and what they get in return. Because ideally, you want to try to be able to keep everyone, right? And then you just like have this insanely potent, unstoppable offense with all these weapons, and it's just like, who the heck are you going to defend against? Like, who are you going to double team? Can you even afford to double team? Like, it would just be ruthless. And also, like, then you do just throw out Deebo, use and abuse him, and if he does get banged up, you're like, whatever, we got Ricky right here ready to go to not miss a beat. So Yeah, it's definitely going to be fascinating. I honestly don't have a strong feeling either way what they end up doing, but it seems like they're all in agreement that Deebo is the odd man out. But I'd absolutely love to hear what you guys have to think about this. Do you think Deebo should be the odd man out? Like, what do you think about the 49ers prospects of how they're handling this offseason? And should they want to keep Aiyuk? If you had to choose between Aiyuk and Deebo, what would you do? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.